Okay, welcome everyone. Hopefully you can hear me out there. My name is James Faulkner, and this is Liferay dev.life Hangouts. Every 2 weeks we do these Hangouts on different topics related to Liferay development. This week we'll be talking about automated testing with Liferay and Arquillian. I wanted to show you the calendar for the next couple of weeks, just to give you an idea of what's coming up here. So if you go to liferay.com/community/devlife, you can see the list of upcoming sessions. Today, of course, we have Carlos and Manuel, which I'll introduce in a moment, about Liferay testing. Next week, we'll have Ray Auger talking about practical Liferay modularity and OSGI. That's next Tuesday. And then a week from next Tuesday, on December 2nd, we will have Eduardo Garcia, who will be presenting on application display templates and showing you how to build them very easily with some real-world examples. So that's the upcoming calendar. If you want to subscribe to the calendar, you can click on the calendar link on the dev.life homepage, and there's a nice Google Calendar. You can use the links to subscribe and be aware of what's coming up. So today we are talking about automated testing with Liferay and Arquillian. And with us we have Carlos Sierra and Manuel de la Peña from our Liferay Spain office in Madrid, and they will be presenting you some interesting stuff. And if you want to play along, there is a link in the IRC channel. If you want to join the IRC channel, just go to the dev.life homepage. There is a window at the bottom of the video feed that you can join and ask questions and interact with our panelists. So, without further delay and babbling on my part, I will hand it over to Carlos. Welcome, Carlos.
Hi everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us here in this session. This is the first time I'm doing something like this, so I hope to do it well and nice, and everybody is happy with it.
Cool. And we also have Manuel de la Peña. Hello, Manuel.
Hello,
you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Just very happy for being in this presentation. This webinar, as Carlos said, is the first time we are doing this. We think this is a good opportunity to introduce the testing in the testing side in the Liferay community with Liferay plugins. So we are very happy to present this.
Awesome. And you all might know Manuel from Jenkins fame. He's also contributed to the Jenkins open source project, the continuous integration server, as well as Arquillian. So thanks, guys, for participating. And I guess, Carlos, you're going to start us off?
Yeah, sure. I will start sharing my screen. Okay, so today we are going to talk mainly about this project, Arquillian, which is a new platform or a new project that aims to make it easier to create tests that run in containers. What do we mean when we say that run in containers? When we say that this test run in containers, we mean that the runtime needed for the tests is somewhere else than the virtual machine that is running the test in this moment. So basically this usually is an application server like Tomcat or JBoss or any other of these application servers if you are talking, for instance, about just plain Java EE applications. Or in the case of Liferay plugins, in this case the runtime is the very Liferay portal. So this project suits very well the needs of our plugins. So what happened before we started doing this integration with Arquillian? What happened is that the testing with the plugins in Liferay wasn't very easy to do. It was quite difficult. So people ended up having to solve this situation either mocking up the portal, which is not very convenient, or they had to maybe build a JSP or something like that they could put the tests inside the JSP or the JSP triggered the tests, so they could deploy the plugin into the portal and then kick the test from the JSP and obtain the results in the screen or something. So this, while this enabled people to run tests, it was not very developer friendly. Also, it was very difficult to automate because you needed to a lot of stuff to be able to deploy the plugin, wait for the portal to have deployed the plugin, then kick the JSP using a navigator or a browser, maybe some Selenium thing, and then parsing the screen HTML, and then you know the deal. So it wasn't very convenient. Like, for instance, running a plugin listener, like a context listener in the application server. So the test will be run when it got deployed into the server. So this wasn't very convenient. So Liferay wasn't the only platform that was suffering from this difficultness regarding tests. Java EE, for instance, was suffering the same. So these guys started doing this platform for making it easier for this kind of platforms to execute tests. And they came with a very beautiful solution that it's very extensible. So one of the good things about Arquillian and that made it possible for us to integrate with Liferay is that it's a very, very, very extensible platform, and it's relatively easy to make it suit the needs of your containers, in this case Liferay. So you guys, I recommend you to go to this page here, arquillian.org/invasion, which is the entry point for the Arquillian project. It's a very beautiful page. So there's a lot of information here, like the features of Arquillian, a quick tour on what it does. So you can see that you can write real tests, which meaning that you don't need to mock anything, just you run the real stuff. They are IDE friendly because they are based on the most common runners out there, like JUnit or TestNG, or you name it. I mean, you could make another extensions for making it compatible with other runners. You can also enrich the tests, like in having dependency injection in the tests, which is very convenient. And well, you can see the features of what they are basing the platform in. And you have also a lot of guides which make you started with the project, and then you can go and having different and more advanced scenarios. Most of these scenarios could be compatible with Liferay. So we will tell you from here what is the work we have been doing and how we have integrated this into Liferay platform. And to do so, what we are going to do is to create a hook from the scratch, right? And then we will try to write a test for it using this Arquillian integrating. So as James told you before, most of this integrating has been done by Manuel for Liferay SDK. So you don't need to do actually much. If you are using 6.2.x SDK in Liferay plugins, then it's very easy for you to have the tests running. So we are going to do it. And I'm starting, I hope you guys can see it. I'm going to start by creating the portal, the bundle for the portal from scratch. So right now I have this Tomcat here in my directory. I will move it to, I will just get it away. And we will try to create it back with our SDK. So let's go to.
Hey, Carlos, can you make that font a little bit bigger? Like
Yeah.
Control plus or Command plus or something?
Is it all good already?
A little bit bigger. Keep going.
Okay.
You have to keep going.
More?
Yeah, that's good right there.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's go to our 6.2.x. Sorry. So I will have my Tomcat back. Okay. I guess you guys are already familiar with this. So you see that we are having just a fresh Tomcat from the scratch. Okay. So now here in my bundles, I will have my Tomcat back. As you can, one that I have just moved, it has been unzipped back. So it's empty right now. Okay. Like the web apps are empty. And if we go to the configuration files, we can see that the Tomcat users, it's I think it's the first one, right? And this the setemp configuration for the run, it's also fresh, right? It's the one that comes bundled with the Tomcat. So now we are going to activate this Tomcat to deploy tests in it. So for that, we are going to the plugins SDK, and then we have a target here, which is setup stable Tomcat. So you have to notice that I installed the Tomcat using the portal root, okay, the bundle, and then I'm going to make it testable using the plugins SDK. So why did I do this? Because if you guys have some bundle already packaged with the Tomcat, you can just go directly to the SDK and do this step, okay? So once I do this, this target has configured Tomcat to be able to deploy plugins, to deploy tests, sorry. How does it do it? Well, it has to do several things. First one, it deploys here. It deploys the manager of the Tomcat, the manager application. So we can now post post plugins, sorry, to the Tomcat directly, right? It also configures the users. So now we have users for the manager and the manager UI and the JMX, okay? And it also configures our environment to activate JMX, okay? So these options are needed for Arquillian to be able to connect to Tomcat and then introspect what is going on there and know when the plugin is being deployed, where the test is available, and run the tests inside the Tomcat and then gathering the results back. So this is what we need to set up our testing environment. This is all. So this is like pretty easy, right? So now what we need to do is to deploy the portal, because this library is just this this Tomcat bundle is just fresh. Okay, so we can deploy it, and then we will have our running instance of Liferay. Okay, so in the event that you don't have available this and set to the stable Tomcat target, you can do these steps manually. Actually, Manuel has a blog post regarding this configuration, so we can just later share it with you, so you can go after the webinar, and you can look there what the steps are and what are the precise commands that you need to, or the precise configuration that you need to do in order to have this working. Okay, so now it will just finish deploying everything, and now we will have to run it. Okay, now everything's finished, so we can just run it using the regular commands that we will use. I guess that you guys are familiar with this, but you need to you know that you have these build properties that are pointing to the to where my Tomcat is deployed. This is what you in regular Liferay plugin deploy, the same as in a regular plugin.
So Carlos, just to be clear, you do not have to compile and deploy Liferay. Normally you already have a instance that's running. You just have the plugins SDK.
If you have your as I tried to tell you before, if you have your bundle with Liferay already, right? You can skip the Tomcat unzipping and deploying the portal because you already have it, and you only have to go to the setup the stable Tomcat target here.
Right. Okay.
Or you can do it by hand. But if you have this Liferay plugin 6.2.x SDK, then you can use the setup the stable Tomcat for that. Okay, so now we have a running Liferay instance. So we can start our development, right? So for that, we are going to the SDK here, and we are going to create a hook, which in our opinion is going to be easy enough to follow, and it would be a complete example. So let's go and create this sample Arquillian hook using the create script, right? Okay, now we have our sample, which is empty, as you can see here, and now we're going to configure it into IntelliJ. So we're going to create a new project, and so far we are going to say IntelliJ to leave it just empty. So simple, Arquillian hook, and okay. So finish. Can you guys see it? See it here? See the tree?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, perfect. So now we see that this is empty, as I showed you before. So we are going to start from scratch here. I don't know if James could tell you the URLs that we are going to use for the demo here, so you can follow and cut and paste examples or.
Yeah, if you're on the IRC channel, I pasted the link into
Okay.
IRC, and I'll do it right now again.
Okay, cool then. So what we are going to do now is to start and create our hook. Okay, so for that we are going to create a RC directory here, following the usual Liferay plugins notation, and we say that this is a source root for the portal, and now for the plugin, and now we are going to create our wrapper. So for that we are going to the URLs, and we are going to get this X user local service, right? So we're going to here. You can also create the package first and then create the class if you're using other IDE or whatever, but it's easier to just put it like everything in the first place, and everything will be created. And now we are going to just copy the class. Okay, now we see that we need dependencies, right? Since we are in the SDK, one of the easiest things we can do with our IDE is to put the dependencies from our portal, right? How can we do this easily using IntelliJ? Well, we can just ask for portal service 6, the latest portal service that's out there. in Maven. So we can have it just like that.
And you can also use you can manually go find it, right, in your Liferay deployment, the
yeah.
service.jar.
Yeah, you can follow the regular approaches to configure the IDE. Like as you said, just go finding it in your hard drive, or even you can use also Ivy for this. We are going to use this Ivy plugin for adding the test. But as you can say, now the tests has been created for us, so we don't really need to do much here. Okay. But you could also use Ivy or whatever other dependency resolution system you have at hand. So it's up to you. So I chose to do it this way because it's handy. Okay, so of course for the SDK you don't need it. The SDK has already the dependency on the portal because it's configured in the build properties. It's configured to the Liferay bundle, so it knows where to get portal service from. Okay, so now this is a very, very simple hook, which is a service wrapper, and it is wrapping the user local service, right? So we are getting our original user local service here, and we are just storing it in our base class. And now what we are doing is to make it store always this string here, like first name changed and last name changed. So this is a very simple logic, but it will help us to show how can we test this. So if you would do something more elaborate in your real plugin, you could test it as well, because we can see now how are we going to be able to deploy this plugin into Liferay and execute the test there. So in order for this to be a full-blown plugin, full-blown hook, we need to configure Liferay hook, right? So we are going to the project URLs again, and we are going to copy this Liferay hook XML here, like that. And with this, we should have a working hook, working plugin already. So now we want to be able to test this. So this is where Arquillian gets in the action. So what do we need to tell Arquillian to do? We need to deploy this plugin into Tomcat. But how is going Arquillian to know how to build this plugin and how to convert it into something Tomcat understands? Well, that's what the extensions are for. So how do we activate extensions in Arquillian? Arquillian uses Java SPI, which is, if I remember correctly, is Java Service Provider Interface, or Java Service Provider Interface, which allows service implementation to be discovered from the class path, right? So what we need to do is to put into the class path several jar files, which are going to pile up and be extensions which Arquillian is going to use for being able to talk to our container. So as you can see here in the screen, there are like 3 extensions now. It is the extension that is telling Arquillian to use JUnit as the test runners, or the other way around, is telling Arquillian that JUnit is the test runner that we are using to execute our tests. We are telling Arquillian that we are using a Tomcat container for the portal, and we are telling Arquillian that it is already started, so that it can reach the Tomcat server without having to start it for us. We could also ask Arquillian to start the server for us, but we don't want to do that now. But it will be just a matter of using managed extension instead of remote. And last one is the com library and Arquillian extension. What does this extension do? This extension is instructing Arquillian how to convert this structure here, this structure for a library plugin, into a web application that the Tomcat knows how to deploy. And also we are injecting some other stuff into Arquillian for it to be able to bring the results back to the runner. So having these extensions configured here is how we manage to contact the Tomcat and library using Arquillian. So we are going to just check with our files, because here we say we are also putting that we are also stating that we want to use JUnit version 4.8. Okay, so we can do this. It's important that we use the configuration test default for Ivy. So this is only going to be used when we are doing tests with the SDK, and it's not going to be present when you are compiling or in other phases of the build. It will only happen when you're using SDK. If you are using the IDE normally does not know about Ivy configurations, so it's not like Maven in this regard, that you can expect that the test dependencies are only downloaded when you are testing. As I told you, in the IDE case, it's normally more dumb. So they are going to deploy and download all the dependencies in the very beginning, right? So we are going to configure the Ivy for IntelliJ. So for this, we have downloaded a plugin which is Ivy Idea, and we are going to activate it for the hook that we have just created. And for this, I need to provide the Ivy settings. So I'm going to Liferay, and I will go to plugins, and I will go to hooks, and this new hook that's been recently created. Okay, so I have this Ivy configuration, which is this file. Okay, and now I'm going to provide a settings file for Ivy. This settings file is located in the plugins SDK. As you can see here, it's in the plugins SDK. So this file is needed for having library repositories available. Okay, I will have a look at this file just in a second, and I will add a properties file. This is something related to this plugin. Oops, sorry. This is something related to this plugin because I need to tell him the properties inside the file. Since I'm using properties for the file, I need to provide them here. So I will show you in a moment what all this is. Okay, so now we have Ivy configured, and now we can use it from here, and we can ask it to resolve the dependencies for us, which it has already did. Okay, so now I will show you these files. As you can see here in the root of the SDK, you have this Ivy settings file, which is just pointing to the regular repositories in Liferay, okay, which are proxying the most popular repositories out there, and also your Maven local repository, right? That's it. So you are going to have all the artifacts that we publish in our repositories or other artifacts that have been published in other repositories. And the other file that I told you is a properties file. It's just saying where is the SDK sitting, just because I can use this variable inside the files. Okay, so having done this, we are ready to build our test. So to do so, we are going to mark this test integration folder as a test root. Okay, this also has been generated using the create. So now we are good to create our tests. And to do that, we are creating a new Java class. We are going to the files in the project to create it. So as before, we are going to take the package and the class name here. Okay, so I will try now to go step by step. So to say what we are doing in this case. So as you can see here, one of the first things that you need to do is to say to JUnit that we want to run the test using Arquillian runner. Okay, so as you can see, all the dependencies have already been resolved using ID. And with only this little effort, now we are saying that this test is going to be deployed inside Liferay, and it's going to work like that. So we can also use our regular idioms, the things we are used to use in any JUnit test. We can use before and after and any other, well, almost any other artifact of JUnit that we are used to use. But I recommend you to go to Arquillian page to see some of the incompatibilities, because these tests are like twofold. There are some parts of the test that can be executed on the, let's say, client side, and there are other parts of the test which are run inside the container. So not every combination of annotations makes sense all the time. So in some situations you might get surprised that something doesn't work as you expect if you try to push this very far, like combining client-side tests with remote-side tests and many annotations. Maybe something will not work as you expect, but most of the time you can use anything that you would expect from any JUnit idiom. So what is this test going to do? We're going to put a before method, which is going to set up the test environment for us. And okay, import everything. Get the company ready. So you don't have to do it later. Okay. Here. Okay, so now this setup, what are we doing in this setup? We are doing this because maybe it sounds funny, but we are doing this because we want to. You are not forced to do this all the time, but it's kind of we are kind of doing this to show that you can do this kind of stuff in your tests without any problem and without being afraid. So we are just using Liferay API. We are creating a new company. We are creating a virtual host name to store the data of our tests, right? So everything that we are going to do, it's going to be using a company that it's not the default one. Okay, so now that as we are creating some stuff for the test, we should also clean it up, or we should at least clean it up. So we are going to provide a tear down method or after method here.
Hey, Carlos, is it possible to make that font a little bit bigger in IntelliJ?
Sure. Like that?
Yeah, great, thank you.
No problem. And let's import all this stuff. So what we are doing here is deleting the user that we are creating and deleting the company and so on and so forth. Okay. So now we are going to do the actual test. So in order to do that, we have to provide a public, just as you would do in the unit. You provide a public method in this class, and you annotate it with test. It's important to use this one. You annotate this with test. So this is going to be executed in the suite, and the results are going to be gathered back to the runner. So now we are putting the logic inside the creating of this user. We are storing it in this method, which I have didn't have copy pasted it yet, but we are asserting that the user that we have created has this name changed here, as we said, as we told our plugin to do. So instead of creating the user with the provided name that we are going to put here, it's going to create the user with this name. So let's complete the test. Okay. Okay. And you're good. Okay. So what we are doing in this method here, what we are doing is just having all the parameters that we need to create the users, including this user local service test. So this is the original string we are passing the service to create the user with. And we are just calling the service and returning the created user, right? So once we are here, we have to check it. And that's all. We don't have anything left. So I wanted to also show you this Arquillian XML file that's already been created for you by the create sh test script, which it's pointing to the default Tomcat configuration of JMX. So you can easily change this configuration in case that your Tomcat is running in a different port. This is just Arquillian container configuration. It's not nothing that we have did here. Only provide default parameters. So now we should be good to run our tests. Manuel, you can warn me if I left something behind. If this is going to blow, but I think we should be good to try and run our tests. So that's from the SDK. We have this test target. So maybe the first time it's going to take a bit longer because it has to download the dependencies for the tests, all the Arquillian stuff and the like. But it has, as you can see here, it has already run the test and the test was successful. So in the portal log, we can see that a plugin has been deployed and then has been undeployed. So what this has done is It has created the package of the plugin, it has deployed it to Tomcat, has run the tests, and then it has undeployed it. And it has collected the results of the test back, and it has presented it for us. So now this is cool, but we are going to do this from the IDE. So for doing this from the IDE, the only thing that you need to do is to tell the IDE that this is a JUnit test. So most of the IDEs out there will do this. Just if you ask them to run, they will detect that this is a test, and you can just simply run it. Okay, so we have a green bar here. This has worked because we have told the IntelliJ using the IDE that we have these dependencies here. So it has downloaded everything, and it knows where to find our Tomcat. So the cool thing about this is now we can change our code. Like, okay, let's undo our changes and just put first name here, and then try and run our tests. So as you can see, this test failed, and this failed because it expected that our test expected first name changed, but it got a different string. It got X user local service test. So now we are testing, like we say, on the fly. You can test the changes that you're doing in the moment that you do them, because this is every time it's redeploying the plugin into Liferay and running the tests. So as soon as you make some changes, or you are trying to solve or to fix some bug or something, you can just run the tests, see what's going on, and try to fix it. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So if you want us to say something further, or have any questions or something, or Manuel, maybe you want to add something?
No, Carlos, it's perfect. It's awesome.
Thanks.
Hey, Carlos, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
We use this for testing Liferay itself too, right? Can you show an example of a real-world test?
Yeah, so that's a good question, actually, because we are using Arquillian now progressively. We are trying to introduce it in more of our internal Liferay tests. So in some cases, I'm going to GitHub here to show some of the. In some cases, we have like samples only that we are going to show this calendar test, calendar local service test, which is just a stub on how to build tests for plugins, which is just using the run with Arquillian and just asserting that the calendar service is empty the first run. Okay, but we also are testing our infrastructure inside the portal already with Arquillian, and it's very cool because the tests are the same, even that they are executing in a very different way. So we can just, for example, show this one. This is a far more complicated tests, which are doing pretty much the same thing as I have shown you right now. You have this Arquillian runner, and we have this before and after methods, okay? But in this case, we are testing the OSGI part of the portal. So this is going to come out at 7. And we have this bundle start, we get the bundle context, and then in the teardown we are stopping the bundle and cleaning up the stuff that we are testing. So further, with in the rest of the test, we are just saying test, 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 and this is being executed inside Liferay as well. Well, in this case, it's not inside Liferay, but it's inside the OSGI framework that Liferay has. So it's not the whole library, but only one part. And for this, we are using this Arquillian resource annotation, which you can find in the documentation. And this is getting injected from Arquillian. So your test has access to everything. So as you can see here, the way we write the tests for OSGI part in Liferay is the same as how we are writing the test for the service part in Liferay, right? So the only thing that changes in this case is that the IV dependency file that we are using is having different configuration. It has different dependencies. Like in this case, we are using Felix embedded container, and we are using another piece of code that we have contributed, or we are contributing to Arquillian, which is this deployment generated from BND. As you can see here, we have the Ant deployment generator. This is for the SDK plugins, and we also have this deployment generator BND, which is the generator from OSGI BND plugins. So simply by changing the configuration of the extensions, we can provide different scenarios for running the tests without having to rewrite the tests itself. So you can try different application services, you can try application servers, you can try different application not applications. You can have different runtime containers. You can have everything. As another example, we are also testing. Let me show you. As a client, we can also test as a client, and we are doing this with the JSON Web Service Tracker. Okay, we have this test for the JSON Web Service Tracker. And what is this test doing? This is very, very interesting because we can provide. This is already in the core of Arquillian. We are providing a specific file for testing the plugin, a BND file. So we have two different files here, one for the test and one for the plugin itself. So in this case, we are telling Arquillian, and you can also find all these annotations in the Arquillian documentation. So this is a standard to Arquillian. We are saying that this test is going to be run as a client, but yet it's going to be deployed. So what is going to do this test? This test is deploying a web service inside Liferay, and then it is testing it as a HTTP client. So Arquillian is just using an Arquillian resource, is giving us the URL to the service, and it is testing it like it is testing the actual web service methods using HTTP calls. And these assertions are asserting that the test is inside the services list, and then we are actually calling the sum of two numbers to see that the service has been registered, and it's actually returning a result, and it's also having it's been authenticated. So, and as you can see, this test is just written in the same fashion as the other tests, but with the exception that we have to say that this is a client-side test, and we have to inject some stuff. But the rest of the tests is written the same way, like with the same idioms. So we think this this is cool, and we are trying to incorporate new stuff into our testing stack. So we can go to the guides here. So we can try and so we can test using, for instance, Arquillian Warp, which is very interesting to test controller layer. You can have a look here about what Warp is, but basically what it's allowing you to do is to execute a test before and after some action has been taken place into the controller. So let's say that we want to test our portlet, so we can test the state before the request has happened and the state after the request has been processed by the portlet. And we can do that without having to use any HTML. So we are going to integrate Warp. We are going to integrate portal tests, like yep, like I guess this is the Arquillian extension portal. So you can specify which portlets you want to test, right? So let's say that you want to test fully test one portlet. So we are now allowing you or enabling you to test the service layer. The next thing that you will be able to do is to test the portlet controllers, and we want also you to be able to test the UI of the portlet, but how to interact it with the browser, but only the portlet, not the whole portal. So this is going to be, I think, very interesting to enable developers to fully test the whole stack of their applications in Liferay. And that's pretty much it. So if you have any other...
So if you wanted to like automate the testing, you would presumably do that through the plugins SDK? Like you wouldn't use IDE, of course.
Oh yeah, of course you would. You basically would use the SDK and some CI server, like for instance we have in our case in our product. But maybe Manuel can tell you how to do that, because we actually are testing the audience targeting, right, Manuel? Already using.
Yes, we are doing that. We are testing the audience targeting plugins with our CIs using the SDK approach. You must configure the SDK in the code that the CI is downloading, and just configuring the JMX as Carlos said, and that's all. Just execute the targets, the untest using the SDK commands, and just to collect the test results on Jenkins. Is super easy.
Yeah, because in this case, Jenkins already knows how to collect the results, right, from the SDK.
Yes, the targets writes a JUnit file. They are XML files that Jenkins knows how to read, so it can draw the graphics you need to say that the tests are passing or not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then last question. So how does this relate to Selenium testing, like UI testing? I know you mentioned earlier that it might be possible in the future to test your portlet UI, but what if you wanted to test the entire portal UI and how your portlet interacts with Liferay? Is that possible?
Yeah, it will be possible once we integrate this. Arquillian has also an extension for that, which is called Graphene, which I would like you to be able to find it the GitHub documentation here. And Graphene, it's a project that these guys have developed to leverage web drivers like Selenium, for instance, And what you can do with this is that you are provided a DSL, sort of a DSL, to be able to use page objects and execute actions on the server. So you can have a look here and how to do functional tests using Graphene. And here you can see how they use it. Let me show. But this is in the Arquillian guides. As you can see, they are pretty elaborated and they are extensive. So here you have an example. For instance, you are going to create a test and you are creating a page object like this. So you can do stuff in faces if you're using faces, and you can let me find the DSL with the here it is, the WebDriver API. Here you are injected a WebDriver, which is the browser, and you can start sending keys. For instance, browser get, go to a URL, username, send keys, login button. So wait for the action login button, click, and then you are going to assert that you have this in the page, and then you are going to execute this action, which is normally the elements are found by jQuery selectors or CSS selectors, or depending on how you configure your page in these elements, and then you can assert here that something has happened. So we plan to integrate all this for Liferay as part of the portlets testing. So this is actually Graphene, that is a Selenium, that it's wrapping Selenium. So I don't know if this answers the question, but I think the short answer would be yes. You will be able to test the UI of the portlets.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like they're doing there. It's like a miniature web browser that you can use selectors to find elements and post forms and click buttons and so forth.
Yeah. So the idea is to be able to use this in a page where you have only the portlets that you want to have, like without the portal even. So I want it would be to ask Liferay to say, okay, show me only these plugins or these portals, sorry, like a layout, a special layout without any decoration and with only the portlets that we ask it for, and it will present that page, and you'll be able to do stuff on that page and then assert the different outcomes that you get to the incomes that you are passing.
Nice. Okay. So then, for developers out there who are interested in this, where should they go first? Should they go to the Arquillian homepage, watch this video again, and follow along?
Yeah, I guess that would be very interesting if they read about Arquillian and then try to follow the video that we have just recorded, because it would be a very nice way to start. And I don't know, it will later depend on what their testing needs are. We would be more than happy to have feedback and to know what their experience is.
And what's the best way to give that feedback?
Okay, there's the usual way for it, right? They have the bulletin boards. You have the IRC channel, which will be hanging around, right? And
yep. So on our liferay.com/community/forums.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's a development chapter on there, as well as our new developer network, dev.liferay.com, has some documentation about how to get started with development in Liferay, and presumably how to test will be on there at some point.
Yep. And we also have already blog posts by different people now saying how to configure or how to test Liferay plugins. So just give us your feedback, and we'll be more than happy to improve this. and we just want you guys to be able to develop tests happily and in a nice way with Liferay.
Okay, great. I guess that's it. I don't see any questions on IRC, so thank you again, Carlos and Manuel, for joining today. Again, this session is recorded, so it'll show up on YouTube in about 5 minutes. And just as a reminder, so next week we will have Ray Auger on the 25th talking about modularity and Liferay and the use of OSGI in 6.2, as well as what's coming up in Liferay 7. And then the week after that will be Eduardo Garcia talking about application display templates. So we will close for today. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. It's interesting stuff, powerful stuff. I've written some tests in the past, and it's been painful in the past. So it's good to see the new features in Liferay that let us write tests easier, because writing tests is always a good thing. We never have enough. So thanks again, Carlos and Manuel, and we'll close and see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks to you. Bye.